The summer heat clung thick to the air, draping itself over Lydia Bennett's farm like a heavy blanket. The vegetables in the field glistened under the punishing sun, but today no one was out tending them. A cloud of dust rose near the gate as two police cruisers rolled in slow and deliberate. When the dust settled, out stepped Officer Daniel McCrae, tall and broad with black sunglasses that reflected the silhouette of Lydia's small wooden home. Trailing behind him was Pete Rollins, his ever-present cigarette dangling from his lips, eyes narrowed with contempt. They didn't knock. Daniel tossed a crumpled notice onto the porch as he barked. Land inspection. New protocol. We need to verify property rights. Lydia stepped out, her faded dress swaying in the breeze, her feet bare on the wooden boards. Behind her, little Maddie peeked out, clutching her mother's hand. Lydia picked up the notice, her eyes scanning it quickly. This land has belonged to my family for 3 generations, she said, voice firm. We've never had to re-verify anything. Daniel sneered. The law changed. Anyone who can't prove rights under the new system forfeits the land. Pete exhaled a plume of smoke. That's right. No proof? No land. Lydia knew this wasn't about verification. Rumors had been swirling land grabs under fake ordinances. They were trying to scare her off. Daniel walked around the yard like he owned it, his boots grinding gravel into dust. Pete kicked over a bucket, soaking the young tomato plants. Lydia stepped down from the porch, meeting them head-on. If there's a problem, she said, bring a court order. Daniel laughed. Court doesn't decide anything out here. We do. Lydia's eyes hardened, her spine like steel. But inside, fear coiled tight. We'll be back, Daniel warned, sliding his sunglasses off and revealing eyes that looked like they'd never known a good thing. That night, Lydia patched the broken fence. Maddie sat on the porch, quiet, her small face thoughtful. Lydia cooked a simple meal, handed Maddie her bowl, and whispered, "No one will take our home." But she knew this was just the beginning. The next morning, Daniel returned, waving a formal accusation, land encroachment. Lydia's hands trembled as she read it. Lies, all of it. The deed from 1952 still sat in her locked chest. Her grandfather had paid in full, recorded properly. Daniel didn't care. Old papers mean nothing. The law's changed. This isn't yours anymore. Pete kicked dirt onto the plants again. Get ready, he snarled. Next time, we won't bother knocking. That day, Lydia didn't cry. She rebuilt. She bled from her hands, set up new stakes, and whispered to herself, I will not break. The raids came next. Uniformed men crushed rows of squash and beans. They trampled the garden, tore the trellises, and mocked her silently. Lydia stood frozen, holding Maddie tight. Her rage was ice, not fire. She wouldn't give them what they wanted, a reason to arrest her. One cop picked up a pumpkin and smashed it just to watch it burst. That night, Lydia sat in the dark, holding Maddie close, listening to the wind howl through the cracks in the windows. She hadn't heard from her brother in over a year. But tonight, she reached for the phone. Her voice was barely a whisper. Josh, I need you. And somewhere hundreds of miles away, in a motel room outside Phoenix, Joshua Bennett, former Green, Beret, opened his eyes. The next night, the house shook as headlights beamed through the window. Daniel and Pete had returned. No warrant, just violence. Daniel hurled a stack of papers through the glass, shattering it. A shard struck Maddie's forehead. She screamed. Lydia dropped to the floor, cradling her daughter, blood seeping onto the eviction papers. Her scream that night carried beyond the fields. By the time she reached the emergency room, Maddie was unconscious. Doctors worked fast. The nurse said if the shard had gone 1 centimeter deeper, the child would have died. Lydia collapsed in the hallway, sobbing, the blood on her clothes a map of agony and rage. Josh arrived at dawn. He didn't knock. He walked through the ER doors, his boots echoing like thunder. He didn't say a word, just looked into Lydia's eyes and nodded. By sunset, he was at the farm, pacing the broken gate, studying tire tracks and glass shards. When a patrol car pulled up, the officer stepped out, smirking. Roads closed, stranger. Josh didn't flinch. Daniel arrived minutes later, his smug face stretching into confusion as he spotted the man who wasn't supposed to be here. "Your brother?" he asked. Josh didn't answer. Pete cracked a laugh. "Big man in a jacket. What you gonna do? Preach us into leaving?" Josh took a step forward. Something about him, his silence, the cold intensity made everyone hesitate. Daniel reached for his gun, but didn't draw. Pete's smile faltered. Josh tilted his head. "One word. That's all he said. Try." And in that moment, they knew. He wasn't going to run. He was going to end this. That night, Josh began digging. He uncovered sealed records, old charges against Daniel McCrae, racial profiling, excessive force, a complaint buried years ago from a black teenager wrongfully arrested. He hacked into local archives, connected land deals to bribes, to backroom oil leases, to names that sat on town council seats. In less than 72 hours, flyers began appearing across town. Dean's photo, Pete's name, charges, testimonies, affidavits. The town changed overnight. The bakery wouldn't serve Daniel. The gas station refused him. Children crossed the street to avoid him. His power had rotted. At home, a note appeared on Daniel's porch. "You belong in chains." Pete got pelted with eggs. Someone spray-painted "thief" on his car. They tried to arrest Josh. Four officers ambushed him in the alley behind a dive bar. It didn't last 10 seconds. Josh dropped them with precision. No wasted moves. One collapsed from an elbow strike. One cried out with a dislocated shoulder. The other two never touched him. Word spread. By morning, the entire town buzzed. Josh wasn't hiding. He was walking straight through town square, people nodding at him, others trailing behind. A march, silent and terrifying in its unity. Lydia joined him, Maddie at her side, forehead bandaged, but eyes strong. The town held a public hearing. Dean sat in the front row, jaw clenched. Pete beside him, trembling. Lydia took the podium. "This land was paid for with sweat and soul," she said. "You want to bury the truth, but we are the truth." She held up the deed. Josh released geological maps, proving the oil reserves under the farm. That was the game all along. Dean hadn't wanted land, wanted what lay beneath it. The room turned. Voices rose. Farmers, veterans, clerks all stood. "You lied to us. You sold us out." Someone threw a file at Dean's feet. Another stood, holding up a rusted shovel. "We break ground for food, not for thieves." Daniel tried to rise. Josh stepped in front of him. "You've done enough." And for once, Daniel McCrae sat down. He had no words. No allies. Later that week, state officials arrived with federal warrants. Daniel and Pete were arrested. The farm was cleared. Ownership reaffirmed. Josh stayed a while longer, helping Lydia rebuild. Maddie planted new tomatoes. Lydia fixed the porch. And the town, once broken, found new roots. Justice didn't come from speeches. It came from standing up quietly, fiercely, together. And from one soldier who answered his sister's call with silence, steel, and the kind of love that refuses to break.